Ron asked me to go over to another couple's house to listen to their story about one of their sponsees who was living in her car and trying to go to school and had been in recovery for 6 months. Ron?
Yeah.
And they were going to try and figure out how to help her. And so they figured out that she had like a $200 gap a month in order to continue to pursue her education. And so we were going to make the commitment to do half, I guess, half and half, to pay for that. And then just through conversation, we realized that there were a lot of other young people that we knew personally that were in pretty much the same situation, not living in their car, but going to school and trying to change their lives. And that's how the Next Step idea was born.
The friends of ours who were in recovery, they were generally working restaurant jobs and working 30 to 40 hours a week and only able to take maybe 3 to 6 to 9 hours a semester. And we just kind of figured if we could help them out a little bit where they could get through their education a little faster and use some support, it would just be really, really helpful to them. And that's where the idea started. And Janet and I were with this other couple, and Janet left the room for a minute to go to the restroom and came back, and she had been elected president of the Next Step. And it was interesting because she had never been on a not-for-profit board. She had spent her career in special school district, helping others through her career. And all of a sudden, she was not only a founder, but our elected president, which was interesting. Welcome to the not-for-profit world.
But one of the best things about the Next Step is that we decided that everybody would be eligible because people with felony records were not eligible for government monies. And so we included everybody as long as they were had a sobriety of 6 months and were working at least part-time and working, and they would be eligible for the program. And I think the best thing about it is because we helped with things other than tuition and books, we also offered monies for living expenses because a lot of the kids had scholarships and didn't need anything for that part. They needed help with rent and car loans and insurance. So I think that the broad spectrum of the Next Step is one of the best things about the program. I think when I was teaching, my greatest focus was on helping my students be prepared for the next step, the next phase in life. And it wasn't so much about the subject matter as it was about helping them becoming independent people, learning how to be good problem solvers, how to be good people, and how to deal with the outside world and in those rules that govern being in school and being successful and being in a job and being successful there. So the Next Step was really kind of right down my alley because it was that next, helping kids prepare for, not only kids, but adults, preparing for the next phase of their life.
I look at our original founding board on Hill Jack House, and it was really blue-collar guys, and we were all sober, and we had been taught somewhere along the line that service work was important to our sobriety. And with that in mind, we wanted to start our own. They have Oxford houses, which are really a landlord-tenant relationship, and we wanted to have some part of helping build a sobriety network for them, not just provide rent for our residents. So we started with a house that had 11 beds and a meeting room, and worked out real well. It was just 4 or 5 of us sitting around talking, and what can we do? Harris House is working fine, but they have counselors. We don't have any counselors. We call ourselves a 3-quarter house. It really provides transitional housing for men originally, and now men and women. We just bought our 5th building in March, So we're up to about 38 beds, and half women, half men now. And we expect and hope that people will stay a minimum of 6 months, but hopefully take advantage and stay with us for 2 years. That seems to be where we really have success stories, guys coming out, men and women coming at us with strong sobriety, with some savings in their pocket. We help them with some financial ideas, and we really provide a safe, affordable, and clean environment for them. And it just it kind of took off on its own. You know, we didn't know that we were going to have two houses, let alone 5, and it's been a gradual growth. We've grown into it organically. We don't want to be the biggest. We're already thinking about a 6th house, but we want to pay off number 5 first. We don't like being in debt, you know, those bankers. So we're trying to get out of debt as fast as we can.
How did you do that with your children? How are you continuing to pay that forward with your grandchildren?
I think basically just about conversations and how we talk about Hill Jack House and the next step, and how excited we still are about them, and how proud of them that we are, and involving them in the fundraisers mostly. So it's really at this point just talking to them about it, because they're very busy with their families, active kids, 3 kids in one family, 6 in another. So yeah, it's mostly just, I think, just sharing our enthusiasm for what we do.
I think part of it for me is sharing my sobriety and recovery along with my active addiction with my children. So they know what I went through. They know the desperation at the end of the line of addiction, active addiction. I lost my first marriage when my children were 1 and 3. I got sober when they were 8 and 10. I was always involved in their lives, but drinking and drugging was more important to me than my family, as my first wife subtly pointed out to me. And you know, no argument there. If you're an active addict, alcoholic, your number 1 priority is getting your next fix. Family and everything else is a distant second place. So having heard my story, and they're sharing it with my kids, with their kids, they understand my commitment to recovery, and they understand our commitment to giving back. An active alcoholic and addict will have collateral damage, and the collateral damage mostly occurs with family members and whoever's closest to that tornado. And I like to look at my life today as thinking that there's, as a result of my recovery, and what I've learned around recovery, is that there's, you know, you've got the collateral damage. The other side of that coin is collateral good. And I think that, you know, that's worn off on our kids. There doesn't seem to be any addiction issues in our kids or our grandkids. Some are at that age where they could be experimenting and, you know, dancing with the devil already. And there's, you know, they know a lot more about addiction than I did at that age. Nobody in our family ever talked about addiction, although I grew up in an active alcoholic home. My sister was an alcoholic and addict, and so was my mom. Watched her die from the disease. So we understand how significant it is and how important it is to know that there are other options out there. That's one reason I love the NCADA, is that, you know, you start knocking on the doors and you know, middle school and maybe even before that. And the kids now grow up knowing that there's an alternative. You know, we didn't know there was an alternative except to continue down the path. So certainly appreciate what NCADA does for our community.
What keeps you going and keeps you leading organizations, keeps you going to those fundraisers, keeps you pounding the pavement?
I've heard that when I first got sober, someone invited me to be on the Harris House board, and I went down and did a tour, and I was thinking, yeah, I don't really want to do this. And she reminded me, or taught me, that you know, you really have 2 options. You can be a resident down at Harris House, or you can be a volunteer. And it's like, oh, okay, I think I'll volunteer. And I served on that board for probably 8 years, and got to see recovery in action And you know, it's payback. Recovery saved my life, saved my family's, a lot of heartache, and you know, it's giving back. It's actually kind of selfish because it helps me stay sober. There's no question about it, but there's collateral good that comes out of it, I think.
Well, I actually, the next step is where I had envisioned it when I retired from the board. I had not had any board experience, so I had gotten to the point where I realized that somebody else needed to take the next step to the next level. And so it has grown into more than what I could have hoped for. The size, the energy, the scope, the amount of money that's being awarded every year. So it's where I had actually hoped it would be.
I think of the next step and how we started was really grassroots. There's a term called founders syndrome where the founders think it's their agency, and Janet was smart enough to understand that we were founders and not owners, and we saw the next generation, an opportunity for the next generation of board to come in that could take it to the next level. I would say they're either in their third generation or maybe their fourth generation of active, strong board members with professional skills in the not-for-profit area. And it's just amazing what that's turned into with over $1 million awarded in their first 13 or 14 years. It's so cool to hear stories on the street. Oh, I stayed at Hilljack and I was a recipient of Next Step. I think, you know, that's why I do this stuff, because I hear those stories out there. You get tired sometimes, and there's another saying I've kind of latched onto, and it's not service work unless it's at least an inconvenience. And sometimes you wonder why you're doing it, why you're still in the trenches, why aren't I out in the woods just kicking back? First of all, we would hate each other after about quarantined in a nice house for 2 months or 3 months, and we're still getting along, but our service work stays active during that part. So it's really part of our life. It's in our DNA now, and it keeps going on.
One of the neat things about the next step at this point is when we don't know a lot of people anymore, so it's grown way beyond our little grassroots community that supported our first three
Part three.
first par 3 golf tournament and our first dinners. Our first dinners, we thought, well, it's just going to be the board members and our families because but then we sold out. We actually had to add a couple of tables, and we made a whole lot of money. So there was a lot of support from the very beginning. But we were worried that it wouldn't be able to sustain it. And so, again, the next generation of board members, that we knew a couple of them, but they brought in new blood, and then it just took off. So.
When we go to their golf tournament or their gala, we're pretty much anonymous now. It's really cool to see what it's grown into, and we don't know. We may know 10% of the people at those events, and it's just cool to see where it's going. I think Janet. I've served on 6 or 7 boards over the years. Takes time away from the family, and Janet has graciously given me that time without resentment. That I don't see my kids as much sometimes because I'm involved in stuff, and it does it. If you're going to be on a board, you can't just go to the board meeting every month or so, and you've got it's what happens in between the board meetings that counts. And Janet, other than the Next Step, she's never served on a not-for-profit. But when I look at her career in teaching, she was much more of a teacher. She was a mentor and advocate, and I was, a support system for a lot of the kids. She was doing her not-for-profit in a controlled environment. So I think of my heroes, people like Janet that are in the trenches going above and beyond their career, what the state says you've got to do. I think of a coach back in high school that stuck by my side when the wheels were falling off and helped me get through high school. And those guys are my heroes. I mean, they're not necessarily in the not-for-profit world, but they're going above and beyond, the scope. They're saving kids' lives. They're making a difference in their lives. for those people that jump into a not-for-profit full-time because they're dedicated to the cause. Go out and start up, you know, a not-for-profit. Yeah, I've got an idea, let's see where it goes, and you throw it out there. You know, I've been involved in one or two that I've helped found, and you know, they're not around anymore because we didn't have the management, we didn't have the depth. But you know, you throw the line out there and you see what you catch. You know, some ideas are good and some don't work out so well. So, but just the unsung heroes. What Janet and I do are, I think, is more common than we realize, and that there are a lot of people out there that are doing, you know, more than we are, that are unrecognized because they're below the radar. Being involved in the not-for-profit world, we're a little bit more visible than a lot of them, but there are a lot of heroes out there. My kids, my grandkids, learned a lot from them about faith, forgiveness, and acceptance. And you know, you pick up your information and your assets along the way, and learning from my kids and grandkids. You know, they've been fantastic teachers for me. Glad to be part of NCADA on the fringe, and glad to be sober, obviously, and glad to be part of our family. Thanks for what you do.
I'm presenting to you, Ron and Janet, the 2020 Service Award in appreciation of your selfless efforts in addressing substance use in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.